Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is James, joined as ever by my good friend Steve. And this episode, we are doing our initial reactions from the Oscar nominations for 2020, for the year 2023, being awarded in 2024. They just happened last night, our time. And so, initial takeaways, I think, Steve, right off the bat, glaring omissions: Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie, director and actress for Barbie.
James, I woke up here in Hong Kong about 4:35 in the morning and saw the nominations had come out. And I didn't want to WhatsApp you on the pretense that I may wake you
Thank
with
you.
a bing or something. But I just wanted to say Greta Gerwig didn't like that's the obviously the biggest snub of this announcement.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think it's incredibly surprising, and I think it just shows how the huge bubble of obviously success and enthusiasm that there has been for Barbie doesn't necessarily translate into award success in the way that I think some people had perceived early on.
Well, I can say is, when we did our top films of 2023, I
Mm,
enjoyed, but it didn't make my top 10. Is as much of a behemoth as it was in the summer of 2023. I'm not terribly surprised per se,
mm.
other than as an observer, arguably the front runner female director of the biggest movie of the year and will probably continue in that zeitgeist tradition for years to come, being totally snubbed. I was shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people just thought, wow, the movie made $1.4 billion worldwide. They thought that Gerwig would get like a recognition award for that. I mean, it should be pointed out, Greta Gerwig has been nominated in Best Adapted Screenplay with her partner
Yeah.
Noah Baumbach, and Margot Robbie has been nominated as a producer of Barbie in Best Picture. So they are both obviously going to be there. I mean, I think the big surprise amongst the nominations that Barbie did pick up is Best Supporting Actress for America Ferrera. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody saw that
Yeah.
coming, and that's great. She's one of these actresses who has really risen to fame, not because of, but amidst, this sort of broadening of diversity and inclusion and what have you in major roles in
Yeah.
Hollywood over the past decade. She's very much, at the forefront of that, and great for her. She's a great actress, and it's the role in the movie that has the big rousing speech towards the end.
Yes. Yeah.
And the Oscar voters have always been suckers for a big rousing speech at the
Yeah.
end of a movie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on America Ferrera again, it's not even just the diversity aspect. She's just an endearing person to
I
watch.
think
I
so.
mean, whether you're watching her on Superstore, the sitcom, or you're watching her in Barbie, she is just someone you are empathetic with.
Mm.
You want to get to know more, and so I think we're going to see a lot more of her. And I think this is a pleasant surprise. We're talking about the snubs of Barbie. This is one of the wins.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's come in that category. If you look, I mean, I think that was the one surprise, and I think it's come at the expense of perhaps Julianne Moore for May December,
Right.
or another outsider that I was kind of rooting for was Rosamund Pike for Saltburn. Saltburn didn't
Mhm.
get any nominations in any categories, and I
Right.
thought. I thought maybe because it was Emerald Fennell's follow-up to Promising Young Woman, which had done well at the Oscars a couple of years ago, I thought we might see something, and I think Rosamund Pike was where we might have seen some love. No, it didn't get anything. Speaking of May
Yeah.
December, that
I know.
that was considered quite the
Yeah.
contender, and it got one nomination just for its screenplay. That's it.
Yeah, James, I was just gonna go there. May December was one of my top 10 films
Yeah.
of the year. Julianne Moore, Natalie Portman, just wonderful performances. The Todd Haynes direction. Charles Melton was a front runner to get Best Supporting Actor. That was my secondary snub. The thing I noticed second after Greta Gerwig was Charles Melton not being nominated for Best Supporting Actor for May December.
Yeah, I mean, there's a silver lining to all of these things. I think he's young and he's not very well known. I think that's worked against him somewhat. I think he's what, a TV guy. Isn't he in Riverdale
Uh,
or something like
yeah,
that? One of those
Riverdale, I
shows,
think. Yeah.
or Euphoria, or one of those shows anyway. But it's come, the silver lining is that Sterling K. Brown got a nomination for American
Yeah.
Fiction. I know you love
Yeah.
that movie, and for
Absolutely.
me, he was the best thing in that movie as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, and when I use the term snub, I'm not even
mm,
suggesting that this person should have been there at the expense of this other person. It's more of just where the Academy was kind of heading and where I was it's more of a surprise than a snub.
Sure. I mean, by this stage in the award season, you kind of like to think that you know where people's
Exactly.
sentiments lie.
Especially
Uh,
guys like us. We like to know that we're prescient, that we have that ability to you know.
and you know, and days like this, they keep us grounded. They're like, oh no, we don't really know what's going on. I mean, I want to go back to best director very quickly because yes, Greta Gerwig was snubbed, but Justin Triet for Anatomy of a Fall
Yes.
did get a nomination instead. So there is a female director in there. I know that for some people that is very important that there be someone in there. And notably, it's the first year that three films directed by women have been nominated for Best Picture. You know, so Barbie did get nominated for Best Picture, as did Anatomy of a Fall, as did Past Lives. Now, I know neither of us were particularly hot on Past Lives,
Right.
but there was it was top of numerous critics lists at the end of the year. But it's got two nominations:
Mhm.
Best Picture, Best Original Screenplay. I think that's more than enough, quite
Yeah.
frankly,
Yeah.
because I wasn't too hot on that movie.
Now, the other movie that I was glad to see get a little love was The Zone of Interest
Mm,
because although I haven't seen it yet, I've been reading the reviews. I've had friends tell me about it. This is a movie that if I have one regret of not seeing within the 2023 window, it's that
yeah.
film. And it seems to be getting some love from the Academy.
Yeah, very much so. It got, I think, five nominations: Best Picture,
Hmm.
Best Director, Best Screenplay,
Yeah.
uh, as well as. Oh, you're going to put me on the spot now. Oh, well, of course, international film, and I think that's where it is
Yeah.
going to probably win. You know, because of
Exactly.
course, Anatomy
Exactly.
of a Fall is ineligible for
Hmm.
Best International Film. Speaking of international film, I was really pleased to see Io Capitano, the Italian movie, get a nomination. I just saw that just this past week,
Hmm.
and was blown away by it, quite frankly, and surprised it hasn't had more love, and I haven't seen it on more lists. I think it debuted at Cannes, where I think it did pick up an award. But other than that, I haven't really heard it talked about very much. But that is one that I think we should review as soon as possible. It's a really great movie, all about sort of the illegal immigration caravan, if you like, coming out of North Africa into Southern Europe, and it's a pretty impressive movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie yet, but I will say that I think the diversification of the Academy membership since Oscars All White has gotten much more international. I think they're boasting that there's been voters from 93 different countries in this year's Oscars.
That's
And
right.
so we're having, I think, more viewers, more members, voting members that are used to seeing international films, used to watching movies in languages other than English, and are used to watching movies in subtitles. And that's I think it's reflected in some of the nominations we saw today.
I think so. I mean, you've got two foreign language films nominated for Best Picture this year, and that's becoming an increasingly common thing. I mean, certainly since Parasite won in 2019. You know, Japan got its first ever Best Picture nomination with Drive My Car a couple of years ago. You know, and this is a trend I'm more than happy to get behind, because you know the notion that the best pictures of the year, particularly when you've got 10 nominations, are all English language is
Yeah.
pretty ridiculous. I mean, well, certainly my favorite movie of the year, Oppenheimer, pretty much got nominated in every category for which it was eligible. It got 13
Yeah.
nominations. I think the only categories which it, in theory, could have got nominated but didn't were visual effects, but it was ruled out of visual effects earlier in the process. It didn't make the short list for visual effects, and also Best Actress simply because there isn't a role for a Best Actress nomination, and so that's fine. So it got kind of 13 out of 13,
Yeah. Yeah.
which would be interesting. I mean, I think one of the key battles is going to be between Poor Things and Killers of the Flower Moon. Poor
Hmm.
Things got 11 nominations. Killers of the Flower Moon got 10 nominations. So on paper, that looks really, really good. But then if you look at the categories in which it's been nominated, it's not the perceived frontrunner in any of those categories, with the exception of Best Actress. I think for both of those films, it's going to come down to Best Actress, whether Emma Stone or Lily Gladstone wins. And that win could well be the only win for both those films, which is a shame because I really like both of those movies.
Yeah.
But you know they're just up against Oppenheimer in so many of those categories.
Right. Well, I would say between those two, I think that you and I differ because you like Killers of the Flower Moon a lot more than I did. Whereas Poor Things for me just exceeded my expectations. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say just after the Oscar noms, is there's going to be more of a tilt towards Poor Things. I think
Mm,
people are surprised by this film. With Scorsese, you kind of know what you're going to get. There is kind of a Scorsese level, and people are even saying of Scorsese's films, this is not really the high watermark. Whereas for Poor Things, people are going, wow, this is a hugely creative, visually stunning film we were not aware of. And it
mhm.
really took us by surprise. And I think that's going to edge out in the end over Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I actually ranked Poor Things higher in my top 10 at the end of the year
Oh, you
than Killers
did.
of the
That's
Flower
true.
Moon.
Yeah.
I mean, my one, two, three was Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Killers of the Flower Moon. So
Yeah.
you know, I love them all dearly.
Yeah.
I mean, to Keller's credit, I mean, Martin Scorsese got a nomination, and at 81, I think that makes him the oldest ever Best Director nominee. So that's cool. That's nice for him.
Yeah.
I just think that with in the case of Killers, it's up against Oppenheimer in pretty much every other category.
Mhm.
I think there were a couple of major omissions. DiCaprio did not get a Best Actor nomination. It also
Right.
lost out. It also lost out in a Best Adapted Screenplay nomination, which I was shocked at because that's one where I have read the book and I have seen the film, and I think it's it did a really good job of turning a book that was written from one perspective into a film that was addressing the story from another perspective. Um, I just think that in the case of Killers of the Flower Moon, it's going to go up against Oppenheimer in pretty much every category and lose. In the
Mhm.
case of Poor Things, I think the areas where it could win, production design, costume design, makeup. In those first two cases, I think it's up against Barbie, and I think that's where Barbie will actually get some love.
Yeah.
And in the case of makeup, it does seem like Maestro has got that sewn up. Maestro, I think, actually got a pretty fair uh, run out here. It
Yeah.
got about
Yeah.
seven nominations. It was good to see it was recognized. I mean, Cooper did
Yeah.
not get a Best Director, but I think that's okay when you look at who did get nominated in his stead. But because at this stage nominations are listed by the various sections of the academy, so makeup artists vote for makeup,
Yeah.
they recognize the incredible work that took place in Maestro, and I think you're going to see it get an Oscar. And I think in the case of Barbie, I think now that those perceived heavyweights are out of the running, I think you're going to see a groundswell of support for the film
Hmm.
to make sure it gets something. And I wouldn't be at all surprised to see it get production design, costumes,
Yeah.
and best song. Of course, it's just going to be a
Yeah.
case of which Barbie song wins, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love seeing that Divine Joy Randolph got nominated for The Holdovers. The Holdovers was one of my favorite films of last year, one of my top 10. And I wouldn't be surprised too, in the lead actor category, if Paul Giamatti wins it.
Mm,
I'm not saying he will at this
mm.
stage. I'm just saying is I wouldn't be surprised if he got it.
No, not at all. I think it's like the best actress. I mean, I love the fact that we're going into sort of the home straight, if you like. I mean, there's still a month to go, but and there are some hotly contended awards. It's not all set in stone. I think Best Actor
Yeah.
and Best Actress that's the case. I remember like last year with Best Actress, right up until the last moment, people weren't entirely sure whether Michelle Yeoh or Kate Blanchett was going to win because
Right.
they'd been splitting the honors pretty evenly, and even Kate Blanchett had to like pull ahead slightly. And I think you're going to see the same thing in Best Actor this year. I love Paul Giamatti, and in any other year, and it's the right kind of role to reward him for as
Yeah.
well. And I
Yeah.
think in any other year, I would be so behind him. But Cillian Murphy is so much the beating heart of Oppenheimer,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and so that I'm really, really rooting for him. And so I think it's gonna really come down to how the SAG Awards go. The
Yeah.
Actors Guild Awards, and to really because the actors make up the largest demographic within the Academy, and it'll be interesting to see which way they go.
Now
Because
help explain something for me because
yes,
of this year's nominations. I pretty much saw the major categories, everything. I think I need to pick up and watch The Zone of Interest. But Coleman Domingo's Best Actor nom for Rustin.
yeah,
I'm unfamiliar with that performance, and I haven't seen the movie.
okay.
Fill me in. Why is
It's
he there?
okay. I haven't seen it either. It's
Oh,
one of
oh,
the
okay.
it's one of the only films I haven't watched. It's on Netflix right now, so you can watch it, and it's about
Oh,
Rustin, who's a black gay civil rights activist.
okay.
That's why it's important. Coleman Domingo is also in The Color Purple, and it's just
Hmm.
been a big year for him. You know, he's got these two big movies out. So he was always on the bubble of getting
Right.
nominated. It was just a case of, and I think people realized that if somebody was going to lose out, it was going to be DiCaprio. Was going to be like the
Yeah.
he was going to sort of fall off the nominations. So it's great to see both Jeffrey Wright and Coleman Domingo get nominated alongside Bradley Cooper and Giamatti and
Well, I'll
Murphy.
have to check out the movie. I was unfamiliar with what
Yeah,
it
no, it's me
is even
too. Me too.
about.
I've been dragging my heels about it for quite some
Yeah.
time, but I've seen him. He's been doing a lot of interviews. He's been on the circuit, and I keep meaning to. I almost watched it last night actually after I saw the nominations, and I was like, oh, I need to get to that.
Yeah.
So I certainly will. I
Yeah.
just haven't as yet. I mean, the one that really baffles me is Annette Bening for Naiad,
Hmm.
because I mean, I thought she was fine. I think the movie is fine. I mean, I think
Right.
actors can look at that performance and go, "Oh, okay, yeah, it's a very physical performance. She plays like this swimmer, true story, a swimmer." But it's definitely at the expense of Margot Robbie,
Yeah.
and I think if anybody was going to get that fifth slot, um, I think it was Greta Lee for Past Lives, who was
Hmm.
seen as contesting that final spot with Sandra Hüller. I am so happy Sandra Hüller has got
Oh,
a nomination. But
Anatomy of Fall was one of my favorite films of the year. It was absolutely brilliant.
hmm and I think it's just going to do great for her career. I mean, she had been on my radar for some time now, but as a German actress making German movies, pretty much.
Right.
I think this as not only does it display that she's as so many Europeans are to the shame of the British people.
Yeah.
She's completely trilingual at the very least,
Yeah.
and so she would never obviously have an issue making an English language movie. But I think that she is now an Academy Award nominee, and that
Yeah.
does wonders for your street cred in Hollywood, as it were, and the kind of roles you get offered and what have you.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a lot more of Sandra Hüller in English movies from now on, should she wish to go down
Yeah.
that road. A couple of things I want to flag out. Boy and the Heron did get its best
Oh,
international
yes.
feature,
Do you
best
think it's going to
animated
take it
feature.
over Spider-Man? When I saw that category, I immediately thought, "Oh, it's going to be Boy and the Heron versus Spider-Man in that category."
At the if it was today, no. I think
Yeah.
I think the love for Spider-Man is incredibly strong,
It
and
it
just
is.
it's a technical powerhouse as much as everything
Yeah.
else. And obviously, don't forget how hugely successful it was at the box office.
Yeah.
Um, but there's now a month of rabid campaigning ahead of us.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think if they can if they can go with the dialogue that Hayao Miyazaki, it's probably his last movie
Mhm.
ever, like ever, then that might well work in the movie's favor. I think it's not a done deal yet, but right now I think it is going to come up second. Godzilla got its visual effects nomination.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. It won't win. It won't win. I
No.
think that's probably going to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That seems to be where people are going with that. Although I would probably give it to the creator. I love the special effects in that movie. I thought it was
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
about the only thing I really liked in the creator, was the
It's
special
its
effect.
strongest element. I mean, I liked the movie more than you did, but that's
Yeah.
definitely the strongest element. I mean, the one film that I think has been sort of unfairly completely shut out this season, that has picked up three craft nominations, which I think is more than anybody anticipated, is Napoleon.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
I
Yeah.
thought that was going to fare so much better, but that has got visual effects, production design, and costumes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
those are the three correct categories to nominate it in. And I'm just
Yeah.
so glad that it's been noticed.
Well, that's James and I's reaction to the 2024 Oscar nomination announcement. We mentioned some of the snubs, some of the things that we thought were to be celebrated, and some of the things that we were frankly surprised by. But what about you? Love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, James.
Yeah, absolutely. What were your biggest snubs and surprises? Who did you think deserved to be there? Who do you think does not deserve to be there? Who
Yeah.
is there? Let us know about that. We will obviously be back with our final predictions on the eve of Oscar night. And we look forward to hearing yours. So if you've got your predictions, if you're willing to share them now already, this early on, when there are so many hotly contested categories still out there, let us know in the comments.